meat and curry, I'm your man. Cause how we all lose it is a mystery. It's like the changing of our wardrobes from a dire history. But it's the one making us not stop. 50 kilograms is all we've got to drop. La 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 la, la 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 la.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's 50 kg drop podcast. If you're wondering where we are, you can find us on Instagram at the 50 kg drop. You can find us on TikTok on the 50 kg drop. And I keep being told that we need to say that, but please follow us. So I always forget every episode, so I thought I'll add it in now. This week we have two very special hosts in Bob and John T. And we also have an incredible guest in our regular guest, Mike Collins. How are we all, gentlemen?
Very well, thank you.
All is good.
Yeah?
I'm excited.
For the listeners' purposes, let's just run through the situation. So John East, 3 weeks into the no sugar diet.
Oh, a lot more than that now.
Are you 4?
I don't know, lost count. 5?
Okay, 5 weeks in. Bob, you're 3 days in, 2 days?
Literally day 3. Yeah, loving life.
Day 3, loving life. Give it a couple of days, yeah. I've come back on it this week and I'm day 4. And Mike's been doing it for 35 years. So, Mike, over to you.
Yeah, how are you, gang? I have really enjoyed working with everybody here, and we started out with Ian and Taylor, and they had some really good successes, and Ed, Joni, and now for Robert. So let's dive in, and we'll just we'll get this thing cranked up. We do need to get Robert on the No Sugar Nation video so that he can be watching along while we're doing this 30-day detox for him. And never hurts, Ian, to go through them again. You always learn something a little new. You have a different set of lenses, and it's wouldn't hurt. So
I'm
just
tempted,
a
to be fair,
suggestion.
yeah.
Yes.
I need to go back through it for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, in essence, I think that what we would want to do is to get Robert's intake here today. Let's find out a little about him. Let's find out about the arc of his sugar and dieting and weight and health issues since he was small, and then we'll we'll open it back up for you guys. But each individual coaching session starts with a quality intake. If I can ascertain your history, your background, your how you grew up, how sugar was treated in the household, if there's alcoholism, diabetes, obesity, other health issues in the family. If I do it right, if we do it right, I can help a lot more. I can show you, I can guide you on a path that will be more, I never want to say easier, but it will be not as big a mystery as all of your other weight loss attempts. Okay. And, although Taylor and Ian didn't fight me much, they were ready, I think, after, I don't know, 2 years doing the podcast and going up and down. And that was very rewarding for me. And hopefully, it worked out for them. But it's a little different than you've ever done before. The process is a little different. Yes, you've got to eat whole food. Yes, you've got to detox from ultra processed carbohydrates and sugar. And, if you can, quit caffeine, because caffeine, and the guys originally, the alcohol piece of the puzzle, and I know it's a big deal for men in Great Britain and here too, and most everyone. The alcohol piece of the puzzle during the first 90 days is an important piece to, alcohol is essentially straight sugar. It sets up cravings for sugar the next day and later in the day. And so there's a few nuances that you have to learn that are going to be different than anything you've ever done before. But we'll start it out, and I'll get you enrolled. I'll get your email and get you enrolled in No Sugar Nation, which is, thousands of people in there listening to the 30-day sugar detox, which is videos that I can answer the majority of the questions you're going to have over the 30 days. But let's start from the beginning. And the beginning is your first memory, Robert, of sugar, flour. Well, let's just stick with sugar for now, but sugar and stealing it, finding it, hiding it, hoarding it, how it was treated in your family, how you grew up around sugar.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Mike. I don't really know what my first thoughts are on sugar or my memories of it. I guess when I was younger, when we were really young, I'm sure we had treats around the house, and I know that I used to love chocolate. I know that much. So chocolate was always my thing when I was a kid. I would want chocolate for birthdays. Easter I'd absolutely love. So I've always been a big chocolate fan, and we'd go around to my nan's house for dinner every Friday, and that would be kind of like a proper treat day where she would have far too many options for dinner, and lots of treats and sweets and all
Sure.
sorts of stuff that we could have once we'd finished our dinner, and that was our kind of treat day on a Friday. So I remember those pretty vividly. But in terms of like how that affected my weight and how the journey looks, we were really active. Me and my brothers were really active kids. We were doing sport all the time. So I think a lot of it when I was younger maybe kept off when it did because we were just so active. So it didn't really matter a huge amount what I put in me because we were never sat down. And then you go through kind of your puberty and you kind of go through your spells of growing, which leans you out again. So when I got to around 10 or 11 before I hit puberty, the eating of chocolate and whatever else I would have, I definitely put weight on at that point when I was at that kind of age. And then I got to kind of 13, 14, went to upper school, had a growth spurt, cycled to school every day, and I kind of lost all that again and got lean again. And I remember vividly where it all seemed to go downhill was from about 16 years old. And the reason for that, the reason that kind of started it off, and that's kind of the first major growth, kind of weight gain that I can remember, was I bought a moped. In 16 in the UK, you can have a moped. And I bought myself an Aprilia SR50, and I thought it was nuts. And that meant that all of my cycling was exchanged for sitting still without having to pedal. So that was, and at that point, then you lose, like I was just finishing school, so you lost all of your exercise in terms of your play times or whatever you used to do, your PE lessons, all that kind of stuff, and kind of exchange that really at that time for pints. So I was from quite an early age, like underage in the UK, I drank quite heavily. We would go to a friend's house on a Friday night from probably the age of 16, 17,
Mhm.
and my friends might have 2, 3 cans of beer, but I can remember for a very long time, I would be able to either get served in one of the alcohol shops, or convince someone I knew, or manage even sometimes convince someone on the street to go into like a Threshers or an alcohol shop and get me a crate of Strongbow. I used to drink a lot of Strongbow when I was younger, so I would be 16 and I could have 15, 18 cans of Strongbow on a Friday night,
Mhm.
which is madness when I think about it now. But at the time, it was just I'm a big drinker. But then I got myself into a bit of trouble with drinking. By the time I actually got to legal age of 18 of drinking, I was already a very heavy drinker. So there was definitely a drinking piece that overtook from the sport. So where I've been very active, I was now very social, drank a lot. Naturally, when you drink, I follow it up with bad food. So then I've always just been a very slowly but surely growing man. I'm 6'2", fairly big frame, and that was quite sporty at one point, 14, 15. But I guess by the age of 20, that was that all that physique had gone, and I don't think by 20 I was quite 20 stone. But I remember at one point there was a bit of a joke about I'm kind of catching up with my age. So like my weight was kind of like going along my age, and I don't know if I was 20 stone at 20, but I definitely was way too big for a 20-year-old. And then
Right.
from there, it's just been aligned to lack of movement. Always had an office-based job where you don't move, and I follow up with uh, with drinking and enjoying myself far too much. And I've done that slowly but surely. And you have periods in your life where you kind of get to a certain number. Like I can remember certain houses I lived in, and maybe weights that I was at a certain time when I started seeing maybe a PT and go, wow, I can't believe I'm that weight. You have certain like milestones in terms of your weight where you go, and I can remember ages of where I lived thinking, God, I was that weight there, or I was that weight in that place.
Mhm.
And you think you'd never, you do something about it and you never get that size, but I've always managed to top it. And here I am now, 2 days ago, starting this journey on the of no sugar with you, and I'm at the biggest I've ever been. So quite literally the biggest I've ever been. And I think even in the last couple of months, I've been, I've been doing lots of stuff outside of work to try and get myself some qualifications and stuff, which thankfully all went well, which was good. But knowing that I was doing this from this week, on the background of that, I was kind of enjoying myself with takeaways. I was having a few drinks in the last 3 or 4 weeks because I know I wasn't going to drink again for a few months. So even in the last month, knowing that I was starting this today because I just come off my holiday and now I'm ready to go for the next 6 months or whatever, wherever it takes. I think I've probably put a good stone on in the last 6 months because I'm 100 and as of Tuesday I was 184.2 kilos, which when you convert it is 29.0065 blah 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 stone. So I'm bang on 29 stone and I've topped over 180 kilos. I've never seen me over 180 kilos before.
What's
And I
that in
think that is
pounds for Mike?
literally £406. So I've topped the £400 mark, which is wow, it's an embarrassment really, but that's the reality of where I am. The biggest I've
Right.
been, and more in need of a drastic change
I think the
than ever. And
wrestler
Mike, will
Rikishi used to weigh 400 pounds. Do you remember him?
did it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great news. I took some before photos yesterday. And look, let's put it this way. I don't really use a mirror that much because it doesn't give me good feedback. But I took some before photos yesterday, and yeah, it was a wow moment for me. But there we go. That's where I am. I'm very much looking forward to starting working with you. And I think I need it. One of the things that I remember talking to you about in December, Mike, when you first joined us on this podcast and you spoke to Taylor, Ian, myself, and John. I felt it was too much of a drastic change for me to start this in January because I felt like my head was in the right place to be able to attack my weight again, and I felt like, yeah, I didn't need to drop so many things. Bit of an old school mentality, and like lo and behold, I've put on weight rather than do what I set out to do, which is lose some weight. So now I'm kind of fully on board and invested in. I think I need to do whatever it takes now to extend my life a bit more. I'm kind of thinking about this as I can give myself 20 years of my life rather than get to a certain way or feel a certain way. I'm more thinking about the long-term health effects of someone that's as big as I am.
Thank you. I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability in that. So I do want to go back a little bit. When you were younger, is there alcoholism in your family? Are your parents overweight, diabetic, anything like that?
So my dad is definitely not overweight. He's quite small, but he did have a stomach ulcer when he was young, and I think it's because he ate so much rubbish that it gave him a stomach ulcer. And then they stitched his stomach up quite small. So his diet's pretty poor, but he can't ever eat that much, and that's what's kept him small, I think. But my mum's side, a lot of people on my mum's side are overweight. It's definitely a weight issue with my mum's side of the family, like for generations.
And how did she treat sugar and food in the family, in the house, and when you were young?
I don't think we had huge amounts of it in our house. I think it was more leaving the house treats, looking after we're three boys, and I think as long as we didn't play up, we probably
Mm,
rewarded when we were out on holiday or whatever. But I don't remember us having lots of that type of stuff in the house. Having
right.
said that, the flip side of that would be if it wasn't, confectionery type items, let's say, our diets in terms of what we ate in terms of dinners and stuff, my mum would openly admit wasn't the best. She was at home alone quite a lot. There was three of us running around, and so we would have more processed freezer type dinners than we would of whole foods, home cooked type stuff. So
Okay.
that's definitely true of our upbringing.
Good. Okay. So look, I mean, if you made this commitment to quit drinking, drinking is a secondary issue as you're growing up, because the habit was already established with the sugar and the sweets and the chocolates. The problem is you didn't realize that it was changing how you felt. You didn't realize it was numbing down your emotional life. And then the alcohol only exacerbated that a little bit, you know what I mean?
Right.
It didn't work as well. The alcohol, or the sugar and the chocolate didn't work as well. And it's very common at 14 or 15. I mean, you're sounding exactly like what happened to me at 14 or 15 when I ran into beer and, was drinking very heavily at 15, 16 years old. But that's an extension of the sugar. The original gateway drug was the sugar. And so you have to be careful in this attempt to add no alcohol over the next, 60, 90 days. The sugar cravings are going to even be stronger because you're going to want to go back to it. So what's going to happen over the next couple weeks is you're going to be, and you can consult with Ian and Taylor about this, and Junty not so much, but a little. There's going to be irritability, there's going to be anger, there's going to be even maybe weeping and emotions that you're not going to, because you've never in your life, literally, think about it for a minute, been 30 days without. And during that 30 days, either one, and during that 30-day period, you're going to start to have to understand that you're going to need other methods: yoga, walking, running, weightlifting, boxing, whatever. Get a hug, call a friend. You're going to need different ways to soothe yourself that don't include the solo method of ingesting sugar and ingesting alcohol. And this is the key that's always been missing. I'm assuming you've tried a bunch of diets over the years, and what's missing for you, for everyone really, and the whole planet at this juncture, is this idea that eat less and exercise more, restrict carbohydrates and exercise is not the answer. It's a short-term answer, because the formula is restrict. Every diet book ever written says the same thing: quit the white stuff. And so when you quit the white stuff and you are gung-ho in January, where you start exercising, the process works. And depending on how long you can keep up a good exercise program, that substitute for your emotional management works. Problem is, if you get injured, or you get lazy, or you don't want to do it, or you go a gap of 4 or 5 days where you haven't exercised, all of a sudden those kind of emotions begin coming up again. You have no other method. You don't have yoga or massage or whatever it is to add to whatever exercise program you're doing. And then it doesn't I got to figure out a way to say this in a meme or something, but it doesn't manifest itself as I need a beer on a Friday because I had a rough week. A conscious decision to zone out a little bit, to numb, to chill out a little bit. It manifests itself in just a fleeting thought. And the fleeting thought is, I could use some chocolate. I could use some soda. This is the second, the two things, one of the two things that I study the most. What you're looking for is not a sweet taste on your tongue. It's not a craving for the sweetness. It's a craving for dopamine. And as I've said many times, when I say dopamine, I mean dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, oxytocin, adrenal glands, endorphins, cannabinoid receptors, endocannabinoid receptors. All of your brain and body reward chemicals are regulated deeper in a limbic, the brain that keeps the heart running when you're sleeping. It's a very deep metabolic function that you can't fight against if you don't know it exists. You can fight the urge to have sex with the hot blonde when you're married because you can think it through. It makes sense. But this is a biochemical reaction you don't even know you're having. Okay. You're thinking about this sweet taste on your tongue. You're not realizing that it is actually this craving is coming from a deeper place. And our work over the next 90 days is to, or whatever, is to bring to the conscious level what is really happening, right? To bring to the conscious level what old trauma, new stressors, your emotions, your things that you didn't get closure on, a grandfather died, or whatever it is that you did not get a closure on, that you would numb a little bit more. And likely that rapid gain, and Ian and Taylor were very brave about this, and Jonty is becoming brave about this, is that there was something that happened when you were 16 that had nothing to do with the moped, okay? It had nothing to do with the exercise, maybe a little, but there was something in that, 13 to 16 range that upset you, or even if it was growing to a height bigger than your class, something you didn't handle well. It doesn't have to be sexual trauma or physical trauma, beating or anything, but something happened that you needed to soothe more. You needed to accelerate your using, okay? And as we dig into this, and not necessarily like it can be obfuscated completely if, for a while, like months sometimes, not quite years, but occasionally. And then all of a sudden you'll start to say, oh my goodness, this person died, or that girl broke up with me and I didn't handle it well, or whatever. And when we discover that, then we'll dig into that. And that might present itself during this process that you're going through. But the number one ticket to the game is the abstinence, okay? The 0 sugar, flour, and caffeine, and the 0 alcohol. That's going to trigger this one way or the other, okay? And we can't figure out what it's going to be till we get there, okay? And so your work, if you will, your assignment, if you will, is to just, there is a little bit of muscling in the beginning, okay? There is a little bit of, you just got to, even if your ass is falling off, you've got to stick with it, okay? You got to call Ian, you got to call Jonty, you got to call Taylor and say, I'm losing my mind. I got to have a beer. I got to have some chocolate, whatever. Just blurt it out, whatever. And you can even say it in our community, there's a lot of women in there that will adopt you and help you. Okay. Believe me, they'll just they'll help you out. And they'll actually, we now have some educators, and we have one really good coach, and she's about your guys' age in Great Britain now. And so there's a lot of people there to help you to do this, and they're not going to charge anything, and they're not going to be like, one of the things you'll realize very quickly, like I think Ian is recognizing, is that when you're helping others, you are being helped. Okay. So the people that you're reaching out to, these guys or someone in our community, they're there to help you, and they want to help you because it helps them stay off of their stuff. It helps remind them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you're in a place that's it's dangerous. It's not dangerous, but it's it's that turning point, that place where you're going into the unknown, and it's going to be different than any diet you've ever done because of the awareness you're going to have, and the tools and the support system that a lot of times, guys, I think the reason our community is 95% women is because women are used to leaning on one another for support. Guys, we want to do it alone, right? We're not, we're not going to call a guy up and say, I want a chocolate bar. And it sounds stupid, or you think it sounds stupid, but it doesn't. It's not, and you need to exercise that muscle on a chocolate bar before it gets to a beer or a whole cake, So all you got to do is show up for these podcasts. And if there's a time in between that you are just, it's going to manifest different ways. The cravings are going to be super strong, but as you get away from it physically, the biochemistry settles down, the noises settle down, the gap between the instant gratification extends, and you got time to think it through. You got time to say to yourself, I don't really want chocolate. I don't want to show up next week with Ian and Mike and the guys and tell them I went out drinking or whatever. It's like there becomes a little peer pressure, but more I call it peer support. It's actually called peer recovery. That's our process. It's really peer recovery. And so, you're in a good place. You're very courageous. It's like a lot of people aren't going to tell you that, but I know it because so few guys do it, because of the reasons I just mentioned. We can get you, back to 200, 220, you know what I mean? We can get you there. Ian's a perfect example. Taylor, Jonty's on his way. We can get you there, but it's going to be different than anything you've ever done. It's not the same. And you have to explore the nuances of what I just described. I'm giving you the 40,000 foot view. There are nuances. One of the things we're not going to discuss too much is what you're eating, because it'll drag me and you down and the group down, because you've got to eat whole food. A lot of the guys are adopting keto or carnivore diets, which is great. I believe in them a lot. You're obviously probably not a vegetarian anyway, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So, just no ultra processed carbohydrates, no sugar and no caffeine, and obviously no alcohol. But the flour people fight us a little bit on, and it feels like restrictive. It feels like you got nothing to eat, you got no choices from what you used to have, right? But there are plenty of choices, and you will have plenty of choices. So again, there is a little bit of willfulness, muscling the first 30 days. It's the whole, even if your ass is falling off, you don't ingest these things, call somebody first. And then we start the real work. And well, we start before, because something's going to happen. Something's going to pop, something's going to be like, you're going to, swear at a boss, or you're going to curse out some lady in the store. You're going to be angry. You're going to be hurt. Something's going to happen emotionally. You might be weepy, right? Crying for no reason. And one of the things I want to say about crying, especially crying, and I want to institute what we call living in process, is if you start to feel that emotion from a television show or some news you get, go to your bed and pound the shit out of it. Cry, snot, pound the pillow, pound the bed, and let that out. Let that feeling out. I can't quite say the same for anger. You can't punch anybody out. You can't do that kind of stuff. But realize that the anger is likely not, it's probably an irrational, over the top anger of whatever it was, where they cut you off in traffic or whatever. It's going to be something that's happening to you, and they call it hangry. I'm sure you heard this term. So you're going to feel starving a lot for the next 30 days. You're going to feel like you're starving to death. The solution to that is a lot of fat, as much fat as healthy fat as you can, ribeyes, chicken legs, chicken breasts, lamb, salmon, fatty foods, butter, eat butter if you want, no problem. Just, so anyway, I'll open it up for questions, but maybe Ian wants to jump in with his experience of the first 30 days. That might help.
The anger's come back for me, Mike, this week. So I've just got this short fuse again, which I'm aware of now, and I'm smiling through it. Actually, I got like crazily angry earlier. Yeah, you go through a bit of an up and down, but there's a real nirvana at the end of it. You feel like amazing after that point. So I see it like I had the same when I gave up cigarettes. I had the same when I gave up alcohol. I had the same when I gave up loads of stuff. And it's just your body getting rid of it all is the way to put it. And you've just got to ride it out. None of it's going to last. And it really isn't like you have times of pure elation and then times where you're just a little bit ratty. And at the moment, I'm falling into the ratty camp. Tiny email came through today, and I was like, do you get angry at all, John, in your first few days, or are you just a happy guy?
No, I didn't get any anger. My side effects were extremely minimal. But I mean, I'm not working in an office, so potentially that helps. There's less people, less interaction with people to make me angry. Yeah.
Cool.
By the way, if I keep walking around, yeah, I've pulled a muscle in my back. I can't sit down too long, so that's why I keep getting up to walk. I'm not just being impatient and fidgety. If it's distracting.
No worries.
Is that a side effect, Mike? Is that a no sugar side effect?
Absolutely, yes. You're starting to heal, and you will feel muscle weirdness and joint weirdness, and it's all healing up.
Yeah, but it's not just like it's not just like pain. Like I've really damaged something. I think I couldn't move at one point.
Well, you don't have any numbing effects either, so it could just be uncovering something. So
So it could be related to the diet.
yes,
Ah,
absolutely, absolutely.
wow.
Most of the joint stuff, but this I know is muscle, but still, give it a couple weeks and see if it doesn't fix on its own. Robert, what do you think about where we are and what we've talked about today? Here's what I want you to think about. No, I don't want you to think about. I want you to feel. I want you to know, is there outright terror? This guy's crazy. I can't possibly do that this long. What am I gonna miss? What party can I go to? What are you feeling when we're talking and we're kind of outlining the next 2-3 months of your life?
So I think I've had enough education through what the guys have done so far to be a bit more aware of what I'm heading into, and so I haven't got any of that type of fear because it's a very calculated decision to go into it, and I kind of, if anything, was willing it to come sooner this week. So I'm pretty happy and excited about just getting cracking with it. I think in terms of questions I have a few practical questions, or well, maybe not practical is the wrong word, but a few
Yeah.
questions into the logistics of in terms of what you can and can't do that I'd like to ask in terms of how to run the diet. But the one question I've got from you, or thing I wanted to ask you more on, from what you said so far today, is you spoke about replacing. I think it's about having a dopamine hit from something else, or having a feel good factor, or maybe a stress reliever in something else. Is that something that you would recommend then, to take something else up to try and actively do something more of something that makes you happy, or is it about just doing physical fitness? What's the advice
Yeah,
there?
100%. Whatever makes you happy. If it makes you happy, it's getting dope. You're getting dope. Doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
have to be physical. A lot of times it is, but doesn't necessarily have to be. Cooking good, healthy food can give you dopamine. Watching a sunset, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Just Google self-care and you'll
Yeah, yeah.
see there's a
But
lot
what
of,
you're saying is I'll need to actively, it'll be beneficial if I think about that and be a bit proactive with that, because
you
it'll
need to
help me to
actively
not
seek
get
them
it
out.
from.
Actively seek them out.
Yeah.
And also variety in itself. Like, so if it's something new you've never done before, but you thought you might want to do, that would be optimal, one of the optimal things you could do. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different varieties in that. What we call it here is the difference between effort-based dopamine and substance-based dopamine. You've had a crutch, you've had a confidant, you've had a lover, you've had um, a go-to way to soothe yourself unconsciously now, unconsciously for your entire life since you were a child. And now you have to consciously break that by understanding that, you need other stuff, because the moped is a good example, really, because, it escorted you to places that, you wanted to be, you wanted to go, whatever. So you were getting a little bit of dopamine, but like you said, you lost the physical part of it, which doesn't help. But there's a lot of different changes that you've got to go through, nuanced changes that you've got to go through. Ian took up boxing again, whatever it is that you would light you up, you want to get there.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes good sense. And then just in terms of the diet, so I think if I just say what I know
Yeah.
based on the support that the guys are giving me, and then we'll kind of work backwards from there. So
Let me ask a quick question before you ask that question is, were you able to watch the episodes during Ian and Taylor's thing?
I've watched some of them. Yes, I've watched some of them, and I'm gonna top up on the rest. And also, once I get your login, I think there's some videos
Yeah, there's
on your
lots of good
site.
videos, 30 days worth.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to watching those, because I think there's just a few things from an education perspective that I'm aware of what I can't have. So I'm at the moment looking at a packet. Example yesterday was sausages, right? So I went to the butcher's today, and it's all much easier to buy whole foods at the butcher's, right? But yesterday, before I could get to the butcher's today, I went to get some dinner, and I found the highest content sausages that I could, which were 88% pork, which compared to the other ones was very high. And I thought, oh, that's probably a good quality sausage. That'll be okay. Stuck it in the group to Ian, and Ian's like, no, that's full of stuff that you can't have. But I couldn't see any sugar per se in it, or anything that ended in OSE, because anything fructose, lactose, whatever like that to me is something sugar
Yeah,
related.
you
So
just
there's
can't
that type of
trust.
education that I'm lacking. There's obviously things in that I need to know that it's not just strictly sugar.
Mike, the ingredients had rice flour, gram flour, tapioca starch, corn flour, black
Sugar.
pepper, and then like disosulfates,
Yeah.
sodium.
You can't be safe with anything that's been manufactured in that way. And the
Right.
difficult part of this whole process is that eating out is near impossible sometimes, unless you're very direct with the restaurants or the servers. And likely you've got to eat in a higher quality restaurant so they can actually execute what you ask for. You can't,
Yeah.
the mid-range chain restaurants, very difficult to get what you need, you got to be in a higher, demographic, like a more expensive, let's put it bluntly, more expensive restaurant so they can execute what you need.
They have proper foods. That makes more sense to me. I had a similar question for Ian this week on a zero sugar soda. So I looked at the back of it, similar situation. I couldn't figure out what I couldn't have based on the ingredients that I could see. I assume it's because it's got sweeteners in it.
Yeah. So one of the things that you have to see, we have to do over the next is we have to adjust your taste buds. And one of the
Yeah.
things about sweeteners in general is the sweet taste. The sweet taste will keep the cravings alive for more sugar, because your body gets the sweet taste, but it doesn't get the calories. So it keeps the cravings coming until you get the real calories. And so pretty soon carrots will taste sweet, and peppers, and macadamia nuts will taste like candy. So you really have to move away from, your taste buds will adjust in less than 10 days. So you have to move away from sweet. I know it's hard, but, and it takes some adjusting, but for now, I mean, you can have a little squeeze of lemon in your water, but mostly just water for now,
Yeah.
just water.
That's that I said to Ian yesterday. I think that it's going to be, I think, well, from what at the moment, certainly is my biggest challenge. The food situation, it's quite strange that I'm just having plates full of meat, and I need to get better prepared. I think for this to work a bit easier, I need to help myself by being more prepared, have some meat that's already cooked so that I can get a snack type or a fast meal rather than having to cook something fresh. So I'm gonna work on that. But yeah, the biggest thing that I'm struggling with in the first 3 days is not having a flavored liquid. Like I would usually have had some type of fizzy drink or soda, or I would definitely have what we call squash, which is like a fruit cordial type
We'll have milk.
solution.
Can we have milk? That's a question I always had as well.
Milk is not that detrimental. It does have some lactose in it, and sometimes it does cause a problem with like cheese and stuff. But milk would, in the early days, milk would be okay.
What about not in the early days?
Yeah, in the early days. But yeah, no, it's that sweet, that adjustment, or the new adjustment to no sweets for now. Again, if by accident you re-ingest, or you get something that somebody didn't know really what was in it, you'll taste how nasty sweet it tastes 10, 15 days from now. You'll have tasted that quickly.
Yeah, that really does happen. And the bit you might be missing is the fizz in all of that. So carbonated water, I found, was a good replacement for the fizzy drinks, because it's like the fizz, you get to drink the fizz.
Yeah, and get the plain carbonated water, and then add a lemon or a lime to it. Don't get the flavored, because they're just as bad.
Okay, so with water, you can literally add a slice of a lemon or a lime into the drink.
Yeah.
With cooking meat, can you cook with certain items that you can't eat, but you can use to cook with them? So, for example, if I was cooking a whole chicken, can I stuff a lemon in it? So,
Sure.
not strictly eating the lemon, but it affects the taste of the chicken.
Yeah.
Or is that?
Yeah, lemons and salt, they have a little bit of fructose in it, but it doesn't really seem to affect it. We have something around here, and you'll see more when you go through the videos, called borderline foods. And during the process, you're going to eat most of the borderline foods. So, not all of them, but grains, dairy, nuts and nut butters, and fruit juices. You can't do dried fruit or fruit juices, but regular fruit, like a handful of blueberries, would be okay during the detox. What most people have problems with when they start to heal up is nuts. They just eat a whole bag of something, it's treating them just like the chocolate did, whatever. So you have to be careful there.
You can't eat nuts on this diet, can you? Or is that just in the borderline?
You can have a handful, sure. You can have some nuts, but again, as you heal up, one or all of them might, trigger something. Also, we've added seed oils to it, and so you want to stay away from cooking and using it in salad dressing, the canolas and all that, and try and stick with olive oil or butter or ghee or something when you're cooking.
Yeah, fine.
I found that I was eating bags of stuff like nuts, fruit, that sort of stuff. That's why I just completely cancelled it out till later. Blueberries worked when I was a bit constipated. That was good to get stuff moving, but I treated them like, oh my God, I'm eating something sweet again. So I was and then I just went, no, I don't need to do that.
Yeah. I don't plan on eating anything that isn't meat and eggs and fish. Like, I don't plan on having any of the borderline foods because I need to wean myself off or whatever. If it's countering the whole process, then I just won't have it. I've got no issue with that. It's just having the awareness of what it is that I'm looking for, and what I'm making sure I'm aware of what it is that I can and can't have. But yeah, I've got no issue with saying something's going to counter what you're trying to do here to not have it. That's fine.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I think that's probably all my questions, to be honest. I'm trying to think of what else I had. Like even things like with herbs. So can you cook with herbs? Like if I was basting a steak, I would cook the steak, have some butter, and I would chuck a bit of thyme in there with it whilst I was basting it. Can you do that with it, or is that?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
You can.
It's fine.
But you just can't have it with the food.
Herbal tea.
Herbs on the food.
No herbal teas though. Just use it for the cooking. That's fine.
Use it for cooking. Okay, cool. And then in terms of seasoning, salt, but no black pepper, no herbs on the food, no paprikas, Cajun spices, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. What's your home situation? Are you married or living single? What's this one?
No, I've got a partner and a 2.5-year-old boy.
Okay.
They're at home with me. So my partner said she's gonna try and can some of the kind of sugary items that we have, the sweets and chocolate we have around the house. She's gonna supporting that way. My boy's only 2.5, so there's only certain child things that he has anyway, so that's all good.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're all set for it. I've got my head around the no drinking thing. I think that might be quite tough, to be honest, but I think I might just avoid social interactions for the next few months until I feel like I'm strong enough to be able to not drink when I'm there. My partner drinks at
Think-
home, but I've never been a home drinker, so that won't affect me because I've never done it. I never drank at home. It's more of a
Right.
social thing for me. So I think at the moment the biggest thing that's challenging me is drinking water only. Not that I'm craving alcohol, just a flavored taste. But like you said, your taste buds will change. So once that changes, maybe it'll be an alcohol thing in a month or two when I've not had that for a while. But at the moment, that's what I foresee as the challenge.
England has some great fancy waters, splurge a little, get some fancy waters, drink it warm. You can drink it cold too, but drink it warm and you'll start to taste the difference with the carbonated waters and the regular waters. Just make that your trip to the store or the whatever the shops that have those.
Yeah,
It sounds a little snobbish, but it does kind of it's a distraction of source and it's very healthy. One of the things I want to mention before we go, I have to jump on another one in a minute, but is if you have a 2.5-year-old and your partner's kind of quasi on board, the ability to change that child's life where he is right now is so massive. The opportunity that you have to change it. I raised 2 sugar-free kids from the womb until they were 6 years old. And if I were to tell you the story, you would not believe me. You'd think I was lying or bragging or both. But really, it's affecting they just don't need it and they won't miss it. Even, probably even at 2.5, they may have already acquired some taste. So there will be a little fight early on, maybe overload them with a little bit of fruit as you ease through it. But you have the opportunity here to change the course of that child's life. I really believe that. And I've done it. I lived it. My kids are rocket scientist smart. Like if I told you their careers and what they've done in their life I'm not that smart, I'm just not. They are, and it really, and there's a lot of nonprofits now, first1000days.org. And if you put first 1,000 days in, you'll get 2 or 3 more. Because they have the Google grant for free. So there's a lot of advertising for this, nourishing and giving nutrition and not giving sugar and other things to children. They won't miss it, especially if you're not doing it. And if mom doesn't, then, you've hit a home run. So just a little bit of motivation on the child for rearing front.
yeah, nice. That's good to know. That's good to know. And I've had some other I went to the butcher's today. And the guy who's there were telling me about, there was one particular guy that worked there that had gone, that had done a carnivore diet for a while. And they've got some other people that are doing similar things to this, maybe not necessarily with flour, but certainly with sugar and being heavy carnivore diets. And they were talking about, there was one guy that was waiting for a knee operation for a new knee. And something like 2.5 years in, while still waiting for this operation, all of his symptoms, everything's gone, doesn't need a new knee, like his joints and everything. So I think the sugar is quite heavy with inflammation, isn't it? And it can affect your aches and
I've
pains.
actually had
They
that
had 2 or 3
experience.
examples of that. It wasn't just one guy either.
I've had that exact thing happen. Woman had a 1 knee operation, had the other one scheduled. I said, give me 90 days. She still hasn't had that operation. So yeah, it's very real.
It's happened with my shoulder, but I can still feel that the shoulder's not strong, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. And I was meant to have surgery on that, and I've put it off, and I'm doing weightlifting now, where I haven't been able to do that in years. Don't know if you can tell by the pipes, but yeah.
Dude, you got one hell of a tan. I will tell you that.
Yeah, I attract the sun really. Like when it is sunny, I'm tanned, but it's never sunny over here. And weirdly, we've been hot for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So
Looking glorious. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
lastly, last question for me, Mike, is just on movement. So Ian was saying the first kind of 3 or 4 weeks, don't overstress yourself with worrying about doing all these heavy exercises and stuff. Maybe get your steps in, and that'll be about it. And then increase that from month 2. Would you see something similar?
Yeah, that's about right. Your main focus is Even if your ass is falling off, no flour, no sugar, no caffeine, but you will need the exercise to mitigate the nasty, the feelings that are withdrawals and, emotions being whatever the
Yeah.
job is and the relationship and old stuff, you're going to need that a little bit. So
Yeah.
got to
That
do
sounds sensible.
Yeah, I found
No.
booking stuff in early in the mornings on weekends and stuff gets you. We were doing the big walks and that type of thing, which is good. I think for me personally, for the last few weeks, I've been trying to really exercise. My brain's been going back to flipping treat, reward, like do the exercise, get rewarded, that type of thing. And I didn't have any of that for the first 2 months, and I shifted tons of weight in the first 2 months. I did one big walk a week, but that's because I woke up early, which kept me busy on a Friday to think about that. And I had like sciatica and stuff like this, so I couldn't really do much. But I think try and keep it low impact, so you're not like mentally tired. Do you know what I mean? Because that's when you're going to find it hard with your cravings.
Guys, I got to have a minute up before my other one. So
Same.
I will talk to you guys next week and keep up the
Thanks,
good
Mike. We'll speak next week, so we're getting on.
Cheers, Mike.
Lovely.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in coming on a sugar-free journey with us, please message the podcast Instagram on the 50 kg drop. Speak to you all soon. See you later. Bye-bye.
We've got some diet plans, health scans, sugar bans, fitness fans, PTs, injuries, laying off the Chinese, ball games, gym chains, protein gains and skin tight tops, and we ain't gonna stop until we hit the 50k. Drop, 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 drop. No excess fat, no FAT, no curry back, no guarantee. Rough or buff, lean on me. We'll end up as fit as a bear.